Stage 12, the upgrade. This stage is the reward for all of your hard work. This stage is that beautiful moment in your life when you finally love yourself more than anyone and anything else, and that you prioritize what is in your life, who has access to you, and what you are. You appreciate how much work you have done to get you this far. This is really it. It's that moment when you realize how much work you have done to get to this point. I have done a lot of horribly shameful stuff throughout my life. And I went through a period where I attempted sex work. So my information and my phone number and everything is out there. And on occasion, I get a text from some guy asking for sex work from me. A year ago, I wouldn't have thought about it. I would have taken the money and jumped right into the work. But this particular moment, recently, I received a text message and I'm in a financial hardship at the time of recording this. And I had that moment where I thought about the money, but then I paused and went, what is this going to cost me? And I knew I was looking at 30 days of mental work, being incapacitated and not able to work because I would have to take care of all of my trauma, clean the mess up, and do a lot of shadow work. It would set me back 30 days. And I finally said, you are not worth all the mental work it's going to take for me to clean up the mess that you leave me. And I blocked him. And that was the first time I really stepped in and said, no, I am now prioritizing the work and the mental health that I have to do to maintain where I am because it's a lot of work. And I don't want to damage what I've created here because I've put so much work into it. This realization of upgrading occurred literally a week ago for me. That's how new this is for me. And it's very much part of the process. I cannot begin to explain. It's one that blindsided me, and I'm just so happy. And there might be more stages after this. I don't know. I will be amending this as I find them. But it was a realization about 2 weeks ago that the people in my life reflected my mental illness from 2020 to 2023. And that for the last 3 years, while I was doing my shadow work and surviving, I had accumulated friends, people, coworkers, networking connections all around me. I was attending certain events. And the last 6 months, I have really, really struggled socializing with many of these people, attending these events. In fact, when I do force myself to attend one of these events, it's greeted with severe anxiety. It is met with severe social anxiety and problems. And I kept dismissing it. I gaslit myself, saying, oh, that's just my trauma. And I realized, no, it wasn't. It was not my trauma. It was me not honoring my true new self. It was me finally being so properly and healthily aligned with my own belief and ethics that my friends, my social circles, my events that I attended now contradicted my own ethics and beliefs. So there was this moment where a 2 weeks ago, I realized that my life reflected Anna 1.0, and now I was Anna 2.0. Suddenly, I looked at all the people in my life and how toxic some of them were, most of them were. I started cutting them out. I started blocking them. It's been a process that I've been leading up to for 6 months, but it really took hold 2 weeks ago when I realized that I have outgrown the people in my life. They were still in victim mindset. They were still using drugs to escape and cope with their problems. They weren't doing any of the mental work to heal. Many of them were narcissists who were using me for my therapy knowledge so that they didn't have to pay for their own therapy, so they could get validation and not actually do any of the work required to heal. That drained me. I cut those people out of my life. I became sensitive to when people were using me. I cut those people out of my life. I began holding the people in my life to a standard of, if you're going to affiliate yourself with me, you're going to be healthy and you're going to work on your mental health, because that's where I am and that's what I'm doing. And that's the kind of people who I need around me so that my own mental health flourishes. It's like I have a garden and I've been planting these beautiful roses and the soil is contaminated. And I realized 2 weeks ago that I need to completely change out the soil and do a nutrient conditioning on the soil to balance the pH to better suit my roses. I call this upgrading. It's that moment when you realize that the people in your life, all of them or most of them, are a reflection of your old toxic self. It's that moment when you realize you were the toxic person, not your abuser. Your abusers are a consequence to your own toxic behavior. That was the real perspective shift. And that now that I had this new life, this new perspective, this new healthy, abundant life, I needed to really go out of my way to limit and completely eliminate my exposure to toxic sources. At first, and this launched a new grieving process because I was losing friends, I was losing events, but I was gaining a peace of mind. I was gaining so much more. I was gaining this massive consolation that I was safe, that I'm healthy, that I'm in a good place now, and that it nurtures. This is the best part. The environment I now have actually nurtures my mental health so that I can do better work for you, so that I can focus better on my work, so I can be a better parent, so I can focus better on my daughter, so I can be a better partner to my partner, so I can focus better. And I realized that all this toxicity that I was allowing in my life from Anna 1.0 was actually contamination to my healthy environment. Now, this happened a couple times. It happened two different times. It started off, it was actually a slow process that began a year ago. A year ago, I started limiting and cutting back, and I changed. And then 6 months later, 6 months ago from this point, I reached that point where I realized, no, it's not enough. I'm going to have to cut more. And I did cut more and I was amputating left and right. But then I finally, 2 weeks ago, reached a point where I went, no, it all has to go because it all reflects on a 1.0. So I literally cut everything out of my life. And this is the best thing. I had two friends, two really good, healthy, solid friends who I realized were fantastic metrics for healthy friend. And once I had them in my life, I started to notice and I became sensitive to a healthy friend versus a toxic friend, so that my toxic friends became even more visibly toxic to me. And my healthy friends became even more visibly healthy. So that this is where I was 2 weeks ago. I went, nope, all of them have to go. And I realized that I went through and amputated all of this toxicity out of my life. And when I did that, it was like a massive purge and cleanse out of my environment. It starts with the mindset, and then it moves on to your internal environment. And then from there, I don't know. I'm not there yet. I don't know where I go from here. I'm still on this journey. I will always be on this journey. And I guess that's my goal, is I'm documenting this journey as it takes place. I can pull from textbooks, I can pull from my sources that I've read over the years. I can show you what I've read in textbooks for 27 years. I can show you what's in the DSM-5 that professionals are using and throwing around. But it's if you haven't lived it, you don't know. And I think that's really what I'm looking to do, is to not only teach others, but show them my road as I've been there, and show them, look, this is where the DSM-5 has it right, and this is where they are way off point. This is what, according to the textbooks, it says this, but I found that when I actually applied it in my actual life, it didn't work, because this is what works, and I think this is where they got it wrong, and this is what's working. And this is it, really, is when you start, and it's all contagious. This is the beautiful thing, is this is so contagious. So that when you start to think positive, when you start to sensitize yourself, it's a little bit of sensitization. You settle yourself in, you basically buckle yourself in, and you say, don't go anywhere, sit with it for a while, trust the process. Condition yourself back into health, condition yourself back into sensitivity. And when you get to that point, you really start to realize, you basically increase your standards. That's it. You increase your standards. And then you adjust to your new level, and you sensitize yourself again, and you just keep increasing your standards. And this is how it's done, bit by bit, step by step, little by little, perception shift by perception shift, until finally, suddenly, literally suddenly, your life is completely different than anything you ever thought it would be. And it's because you are so focused in stage 9 of changing these little itty bitty moments and points, that it's waterfalling. It affects everything. And I'll say it a million times over. Confidence isn't taught in this course. It's a consequence. I can't teach you self-esteem. It's going to be a consequence here, because you're changing so much other things. And the best thing about, as you make these changes, you feel pride. You go, wow, I did this. I got me through this. I applied these changes. I raised my standards. I like who I am now because I am making better choices. By the way, that's the core of pride and confidence, is when you take action and you do things that give you pride, and then you feel confident in yourself that you can do it again, that you can make better choices for yourself. And so you do it again. And that's really what we're doing here. That is it. That is what the garden is about. This is why it's a healing garden. It's because gardens grow. Gardens need to be nurtured. They need to be tended to. And they expand and they develop. And the last part of this, stage 12, is when you start upgrading everything. You upgrade your standards, the quality of your life, the people in your life. You start setting boundaries, and you say, no, I'm not going to tolerate that anymore, because your goal and your priority becomes protecting you, protecting your subconscious, protecting your alignment. When you prioritize your subconscious core and your cognitive alignment above all else, your life flourishes, because now you understand abuse. Now you understand the process. Now you understand what an abuser targets. Now you know how to protect yourself, how to stop the abuse from happening, and how to redirect and save yourself. This is how it's done. It's absolutely, really, truly empowering.